Thanks to the power of FIFA modding, we can basically remove any restriction from career mode. This made me think, if we can remove the need for your manager to retire, how would career mode actually handle 100 seasons of players appearing, developing, and then retiring? The answer is actually way better than I expected. To do this, I wrote a script to screenshot the Ballon d'Or winner, the UEFA Champions League winner, and the English Premier League winner every single season, while automatically progressing every season every couple of minutes. Unfortunately, there's almost no way of tracking any of the information that's on FIFA, even using other mods, so data like the Serie A, La Liga, and Bundesliga winner is totally lost. I also save the game every 10 seasons. This is so that I can kind of track what dominant teams look like and see where player regens moved, and smaller things like that. So before we get really into the detail about things about career mode that we found out, let's start with the things that you're probably most interested in knowing about. Who was the most successful team in the game, who was the best player, and what was the best nation in this save? Well, Manchester City won 45 of the 100 Premier League titles that we simulated, including all 10 in the 2050s, where they had the Haaland, Mbappe, Messi, and Ronaldo regens all in the same team at the same time. France won 12 of the 24 World Cups, but PSG did only manage a single UEFA Champions League. Lyon became the best team in France basically straight away, and they actually won more Champions Leagues than PSG, as well as the majority of the French league titles. The biggest surprise for me though was definitely Lincoln City. I'll explain how they got so good a bit later in this video, but they actually won the UEFA Champions League in both 2055 and 2061. Finally, player-wise, the most Ballon d'Ors was shared between Kylian Mbappe and the first of his 6 regens, Hervé Noël, who would go on to win 9 Player of the Year trophies each. Yep, that's right, players would regen and then their regens would regen, and so on and so on. So you might be wondering why there's even a cap on seasons if you can just bypass it so easily and everything seems to work in career mode. Well, I did find a couple of big reasons why the 15-year limit is on the game. While I talk about why, I'll be showing off some of the final tables from each league so you can find out where your favourite club ended up in this save. First of all, physical training is basically totally broken when you remove this cap. So after 20 years, you'll have between 10 and 20 players who have rated above 95 for agility, strength, acceleration, and sprint speed. This means they're all some kind of weird Lukaku and Mbappe hybrid player. Even if they're playing in goal, sometimes they get this kind of physical stats. Every time you progress another season, more and more players like this will appear. Towards the end of the 100-year simulation, I think we had a World Cup where basically every player was rated above 95 for at least one physical stat, with the majority having 2 or more physical stats over 95. Secondly, I think FIFA is actually really bad at creating new players. In Season 1, of course, you have Mbappe, Lewandowski, Kane and Haaland as the standout strikers, so that means you have a French, Polish, English and Norwegian striker being one of the best 4. The same thing will be happening after 20 years. You'll have their regen French, Polish, English and Norwegian striker as the 4 best. After 40 years, exactly the same. 60, 80 and 100 years, it's the same 4 nationalities in the same positions being the same best players. The only time that the AI actually seems to develop a good player is when a regen will appear at their club. This leads to some funny situations. Lincoln City somehow picked up Harry Kane's regen in League 2. 3 years later, and they were one of the best teams in the Premier League after 3 promotions in 3 seasons, thanks to his rating being like 91 while they were still in the Championship. The same thing happened at Bodo Glimt, who found the Erling Haaland regen and made it to the Champions League final in 2039. The fact that the game isn't actually generating new players that are original makes it a little bit less fun in my opinion if this was how it was meant to be played. Imagine if the game had created someone with Haaland's potential, but they were from Iceland or in a totally different position. Or maybe the next Harry Kane could have been a Scottish right back who goes on to be a 91 rated player. Probably the most bizarre purchase that I noticed though was 9-time Ballon d'Or winner Hervé Noël, who would end up at Rapid Vienna. There must have been either a massive takeover for the small Austrian side to own the best player in the world. Just look at his stats, he's still got 99 for both of the sprint stats, he's 96 rated overall, and he's on just £160,000 a week. This guy is by far the best player in the world, and for some reason he's ended up at a mid-table Austrian football team. So while I upload this video on the same day as the Man City vs Inter Milan Champions League final, I thought I'd show some clips of the Champions League final 100 years in the future, while answering the question, would it actually be fun if career mode did last this long, or maybe didn't have any limit like Master League does? Well, the fact that the players regenerate in a bad way makes it a little bit worse, and the fact that physicality doesn't seem to actually ever deteriorate on some of these regen players, again, makes the career mode a lot worse than the first couple of seasons. A lot of the challenge is out of the game as well, because it seems like basically every player in the database, there is so many players rated between 83 and 86. There's not so many above 86, that's just regens really. But really, you can see why there is a 15 season limit. The game's clearly not balanced to be played for this long, but if you want to do something like this, do give it a go. It took me about an hour to simulate every single decade, with each season taking about 7 to 8 minutes to complete. Things start getting buggy as soon as you get past 2050, with a lot of crashes when you're simulating throughout the calendar, but I'm not quite sure I'm at the limit of the game engine just yet. If you want me to try and maybe go a little bit further in the future, do let me know in the comments below, and like the video if you've enjoyed this. Where do you think your club will end up in 100 years time? Let me know in the comments or over on Discord. But thank you for watching, I'll see you soon, cheers and goodbye.